Hell yeah, I'm bored too. I feel all of y'all out there. Yeah, well, the birds are clearly outside having a good time. If y'all are hearing that in the background, sorry about it. But here we are in that dead period, late June, in between OTAs and training camp. Got about a month of nothingness. Our team pretty much blew its load last offseason in free agency, so there wasn't a ton going on this year, and that's to be expected when you're talking about contracts and having to manage all that stuff. And wouldn't be shocked if you see a move or two going into camp. During camp, y'all all know what I'm keeping an eye out for, the positions I would like to see them making moves to shore up, particularly at safety. Wouldn't hurt if they found another edge guy, but it is what it is. But nonetheless, I am back with another five piece for that head top. So without further delay, let's get into it. Going to do something a little different for this episode. Going to focus on one player only, because not just for content's sake, but I think it's about time that we start getting into the nitty gritty and focusing in, honing in a little bit on some of these guys that really need to step up in this season. And I think today is as good of a day to discuss someone that I don't think Chargers fans are paying a whole lot of attention to with regard to how important this season really is, whether it be professionally on the field or personally, and those things could be melding together. And if you haven't figured it out yet, it's Joey Bosa. So, number one, no country for 10 men. And by 10 man, I mean like the Wizard of Oz. You know, the dude who had to oil his joints up or else he was all to crap. Well, I love Joey, but one thing that has clearly been associated with him is injury, and that's been throughout his career. In his 7 years and a possible 113 regular season games, Joey Bosa has played in 84. That's right. He has missed a whopping 29 regular season games. The number 29 is actually very personal to me. It was my football number, or well, my last number. But in this case, not feeling all that great about it. It's not a number that I want associated with such a topic, but such is life. Talking about various injuries, hamstring, foot, concussions, the groin. If you paid attention to Joey here and the way that he's talked, particularly there's an interview, I forget who he conducted it with. It might have been when he was sitting down with Drew Tranquil during his podcast series while he was still a Charger. I don't quite remember. But he kind of dug in a little bit. And if you were paying attention, didn't really sound like a guy who seemed long for the game. Something that he clearly loves, but Joey went into a dark place. He's talking about dealing with depression, things of that nature, and when someone starts discussing those things and it becomes more of a chore to do what it is you love, as opposed to having fun while doing it, it's just something that you're obligated to do, which you can question whether or not that's the way he feels. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in Joey's body or his brain, but again, I am sure that he does still love the game. But you have to ask yourself, when you're going through constant rehab, not being able to put your best foot forward in the off season and train the way that you would like to, and it just becomes that much more difficult to gear yourself up week in and week out for games. You're just dealing with these nagging, disgusting, debilitating injuries. You never really know. So, I think this is a really big year for him in regards to what his future looks like. I mean, the Chargers are going to have some decisions to make, but honestly, man, if Joey has another injury-riddled season, I'm not sure what happens at the end of 23, but hoping the best for him. Moving right into the Doski, cooler heads, which is something I know the Chargers are hoping Joey subscribes to next season. We have our most recent and vivid memory of this team and Joey Bosa blowing a 27-0 lead in the wild card game against the Jacksonville Jaguars last season. And yo, it's one thing to be given all out effort and have a bad personal foul or something like that called on you, but to just make boneheaded decisions like, and actually, I'm gonna shoot Joey some bell here. That first penalty, he got baited. We saw it. The referee walks him down, basically taunts him, goats him into saying something, and then throws a flag on him. But later, and we know how the game was going, and this was super crucial. He gets into a situation where he gets upset for a penalty, or I'm sorry, was it that he wasn't getting a penalty for being held? I think that's what it was. He takes his helmet off in the field of play, slams it on the ground. Brandon Staley even has to walk on the field to attempt to intervene. And yeah, you just can't have that. Emotions run high. Got a bunch of dudes out there, testosterone all over the place, and I don't fault him for being upset. There was a lot of nonsense going on, and yeah, he clearly was a target. But you can't react that way, man. You got to put the team first, and you got to be able to control those emotions and unleash them when necessary, and put them to the side also for the betterment of your team. Can't be selfish in that way. So let's get it together, Joe. And that actually bleeds over into number 3. Left brain energy. Now, I gave Joey some credit before, right? The refs definitely seemed to have it out for him against the Jags, at least early on. But we can't blame all of his mistakes on the refs just not liking him. There have been some instances, more often than not on third downs, extending drives, that he's committed some really critical personal foul penalties. And a lot of the time, led to points. I understand that he's a high effort guy. We love that about him. The motor just goes nonstop. If he can play, he's going to give it his all. We all appreciate that. With that being said, though, and football just being like a split-second thing, you just have to be able to make the proper decisions at the right times. And you can't cost your teams in that way. I totally get it. You're coming off the edge. You get there like a beat and a half too slow. Quarterback releases the ball, and it's hard to slow down your momentum, and you make contact. And it's a little rough. Some of that has to do with the fact that you want the QB to know that you're there, so he has something to think about, which might lead to some happy feet in the pocket. But man, sometimes you just have to understand that it's not worth it. If taking that chance in that split second, you making the decision to contact the QB results in a penalty that extends a drive that puts points on the board potentially, then who do you have to blame for that? This all comes down to making the right football play. Joey's a smart enough guy on the field to get that done. And just moving forward is something that he's going to have to take into account, because he can't be the reason why the team loses the game. Not one of your best players. That can't happen. And I know that Joey isn't necessarily the most vocal person, kind of leads by example, turns into a different beast when he's in between the lines as opposed to just his regulatory personality. But still, man, you got to be able to calm the Hulk down. Got to go Bruce Banner sometimes. And it's what we're going to be looking more more from you in 23. And I know you can do it, man. Just kind of reel it in a little bit. That's it. Just a little bit. Just a bit. Not much. We still want you out there wrecking QBs, but not if it's going to cost your team the game. Faux Moses Malone. You know what it is. Down and dirty. I think this kind of goes without saying, but Joey's best served with his hand in the dirt. Really don't like him playing as a stand-up edge at all. He's not that type of an athlete. Is he serviceable in that department? Yeah, but he's a lot better guy with all of his momentum moving forward with his hand in the ground. Just from what I've seen. Go back to Ohio State, where he does the best work. Hell, go back to St. Thomas Aquinas. It's all the same. If he's down in the 3 point stance, he's really quick out of his stance and getting the edge that way. Standing straight up, not as athletic, not as twitchy, and actually standing up, common sense thing to me. More of your chest is exposed, gives a wider surface area for offensive tackles and tight ends to attack you, latch on the inside of your chest plate, maybe drive you down the line of scrimmage, off the ball, whatever their job is for that particular play. I also really don't like Joey dropping into coverage. I understand that it's kind of sort of a part of Brandon Staley's scheme. He uses it to mix things up a little bit. But like I said before, Joey's not that fluid of an athlete. He's Is he pigeon-toed or knock-kneed? I think he's pigeon-toed. You can see it when he walks. He's just, it's actually really amazing that he's as good of an athlete as he is with like the little duck feet pointing in that way. But man, look, use the guy to his strengths. Let him go hunt, put him down in the 3 point stance, and attack. Loop him, run your stunts that way, get him on the inside against guards. Just let the big dog eat. The big bear maul the way that he should. Khalil Mack, even though he is a little bit older, probably still a little bit better athlete than Joey. I guess that's questionable at this point. We'll see going into next year, but just his overall makeup, he's a better athlete. Historically, he's been a better athlete, but again, age catches up with us all, so they may be on a little bit more of a level playing field than what I'm thinking right now. Either way, this is not really a Joey thing. This is a Brandon Staley thing. So I want to see him more often than not with his hand in the dirt as opposed to standing up. But I'm not the defensive mastermind here. And if it plays out that way and he is coming off the edge, standing up, a lot of that happens in your base 3-4, which they don't run a ton of. But there are other scenarios where Joey could be standing up on the edge of the line of scrimmage. But it's not something I want to see. I definitely don't want to see him backpedaling because that is not pretty whatsoever. And football isn't always an aesthetically pleasing game, but that's a different type of ugly. I'm sorry, Joey. Topping this bad boy off with number 5, be the straw, not the drink. I don't care about being overly critical. I love this team. I'm a fan of almost every player on it. And I'm going to criticize the best players because you get paid the big bucks for a reason. And whatever side of the ball you play on, your teammates, your coaches are looking for you to be the guy. I need Joey to be the guy more consistently. You could blame injuries, but sometimes it's just one-on-one situations where he's not winning. I get that pressures are a big stat. They matter. But no matter what, I guess some of the new age fans really love the pressure stat. I'm still a guy that believes in TFLs and sacks. If you can't get there, you can't get there. I don't expect that you always will. But what we can't have are stretches in the game when one of your best players just seems to disappear. And that has happened with Joey on occasion. And what I would love to see going forward is if you're going to be one of those, top 5 to 7 edge rushers in the game, you want to have your name up there, then you got to win those one-on-ones. We're not talking about situations where he's getting doubled and, just not able to overcome it. Sometimes, Joey ends up off of his feet more often than you would like for a player of his caliber. Some of that has to do with athleticism and balance and momentum. But again, like I said before, I'm not giving it a pass. If you were that guy, be that guy, because this team needs that in the defensive front. I don't think Joey's ever going to be much of a vocal leader. So if you're not going to be, I'm not saying a rah-rah guy, but someone who just gets the team amped up when the time calls for it, then you have to be uber, uber performer on the field. So what you don't do with your mouth, because it's an action game anyway, but still, leadership comes in many different forms. But if you're going to be a guy who's more monotone, doesn't do a whole lot of yapping, and you're not firing the team up a ton, then you have to be that dude making plays on the field. And I say all this to say that I know that Joey can do it. We've seen him exhibit it in years past. What I'm hoping for is that this year seems that, this offseason he's been able to train the way that he wants to, coming back off of that groin injury, has some time to recover. No offseason surgery, any of that stuff. No more nagging injuries, which I hope there aren't any more nagging injuries, because he said that last year, and we came to find out that there were issues and he was just playing through them. But if we're getting a 90+% Joey Bosa going into the 23 season, I got to see him knock it out of the park. Be the guy that this team believes in and can lean on to come up with the big play in the clutch. Because you know what it is. It's a trenches game. Whether you're making a stop on the edge in the run game, whether it's getting a key sack on third down, whatever closes out a game in a close game, be one of those guys. Number one, be available. Number two, be active in making plays. So, sounds a lot simpler than what it is, but it's kind of what it boils down to, right? The coaching staff is putting you in a position to make plays, and you're on the field, you got to make them. And that is all from me today. Until the next time, I appreciate y'all again, per usual, for joining your boy, listening to me get my ish off. I'll be back soon. Another 5-piece for that head top, hot and spicy, probably grilled with some BBQ sauce, maybe some honey mustard barbecue sauce. Oh, I think I just figured out what lunch is going to be. So yeah, let me get to that. Catch y'all later. Gone.